Welcome back. We are here with Sadye Sawyer, and this is the second episode. And we are talking about all things fashion and how to look and feel your best. Sadie has just a wild wealth of knowledge. And I don't even know where you want to kind of dive in here. Like what are some of the main tips and tricks that you help people with when they're looking at how do I dress myself? I'm the worst at it, so
You are not, number one.
well, I have you now, so it's all better.
Well, I appreciate it, but I saw your closet before I met with you. You did just fine. But I would say so there are a couple of different categories. I think you kind of saw this when we had our first meeting is I just try to get to know you. Um, I think that's the big thing because people, when they're talking about themselves and their lives, end up kind of divulging areas that maybe they don't feel so comfortable in. And it's a little bit more of a comfortable setting to tell me what's going on,
Mhm.
which I think is important because, talking about how things fit, how you want to look in general, is a really personal experience. That's why we do it one on one.
Mhm.
So I think what I try to tackle is do people know how to put things together, or is it a sizing issue? Or is it both? Um, in general, I think I'm running into a lot of the mixture of the two, especially with my clients that are women,
Mhm.
where they're just finding that nothing works for them off the rack. And they're really frustrated. I know that you had that frustration as well. And it becomes kind of like a dance of I want you to consider the things that you haven't considered before because it's a very interesting way of shopping. It's a mindset switch. It's, as you know, we have a longer production time, but good things take time to
Mhm.
make in
Yeah.
general. But I think what I try to instill in my biggest tips in general is to kind of get out of the mindset that you have to compromise. Um, you shouldn't be barred from an entire section of clothing because you have some different body proportions or they aren't mainstream. I think that's ridiculous and it's not true. I think people learn to accept these things because that's what we're taught, but there very much so is a different way.
Right. Well, and I think it's interesting that you touch on it is very emotional based.
Hmm.
And especially when you're talking about how you present yourself to the world, I think our natural instinct is you want to hide kind of things that you're ashamed of or things that you don't feel as comfortable in. Um, and so talking to somebody about your clothing and what you're doing, it is very it can bring up all kinds of different interesting things that maybe when you can take it head on, it's like, why are you not wearing this entire type of clothing? Right?
Of
Like
course.
instead of why don't you, it has the clothing needs to fit you. You don't need to fit the clothing.
Exactly.
And that's the biggest mind switch. I will also say from my experience, I felt like a weird sense of vulnerability.
Hmm.
Like how because you came to my house, which was great because I don't like much
Yeah.
shopping, so it was perfect. But then having you there, I was like, oh, you're gonna look through my clothes,
Yep.
like you're gonna see all of my really bad decisions I've made. Like, oh no, and it is, and like to have the level of trust with you,
Hmm.
of like you've got me, it's okay, it's not judgment, right? Like let's look at it. Like, do you like this? Do you don't like this? And otherwise, I always feel like my torso's too short, my arms are too long, like, whoa, why am I shaped like a weird human? Like, and then if I try anything on in a store,
Yeah.
it like reinforces that.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to, have my measurements taken and know like, oh no, I'm perfect Monica sized.
Hmm.
And the clothes that I'm gonna get are Monica sized, not for anybody else. And it's great. It's such a good experience.
Hmm.
The other thing I found interesting was I love capris. I've worn lots and lots of capris,
Hmm.
but I just recently figured out that that's not the best for my like I'm a little short and then wearing
Yeah.
capris make me seem really short and if I wear like a boxy jacket because I was not buying jackets correctly either,
Hmm.
I just look like a really short, very boxy human. So are there
Which
any
is not you at all.
which is not
So,
my personality is much taller than this, I promise. So can you talk about there are other like tips that maybe you can think of off the like capris maybe not so much affect height, anything else? Oh, maybe the jacket button. That was
yes.
interesting.
So that's actually one of my favorites. I think people have the misconception that it's not a science, but it is. There's ratios involved. So I think I was chatting with you about button position. We were trying to figure out things, and depending on where you put your button position, it either makes your torso look longer or shorter. It's kind of like that element of I guess I don't want to call it a ruse, but we look with our eyes, duh.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that you're seeing things in a certain way, and looking good is just about proportions. So whether it be if you're a little bit shorter, doing a little bit of a flared leg instead of a matchstick, or having that length to somebody, or to the bottom of your pants, like that changes everything in general. If you feel like you're uncomfortable with your stomach area, maybe doing a higher waist or adding a pleat in. Like there are just so many things that if you sit down and tell somebody what's going on, there is a solution to it.
And it's not necessary. The solution isn't you have to change.
No,
You're not good enough. The clothes don't like you. That's not the solution, right?
no,
Yes.
absolutely not.
Something you had mentioned before we had talked was really like helping people understand that they are worthy,
Absolutely.
and it is emotional, and it does come so much with the self-esteem and the confidence, and it's
Hmm.
amazing the difference between like you're wearing clothes you kind of feel ho hum,
Hmm.
and then wearing stuff that you were like, yes, everybody look at me, this
Yep,
is amazing, and it changes that fast,
it
and it's
does.
just the difference in an outfit, and that's, I think, so important when we're talking about wellness and mental health and self-care and all these buzzwords that you hear all the time. And I think the one that kind of gets glossed over is, picking outfits well. Like what
Mhm.
do you want to show to, you know, bringing the inside character out, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you're right. I think a lot of people think that this topic is really trivial, but you're spot on. It's not. I was driving home yesterday, actually, and I was thinking about the fact of how personalities change in general when you are in an outfit that makes you feel good. And I had this thought of how many are there of these high power women who are in these companies sitting in boardrooms where maybe they don't feel the most comfortable visually, because unfortunately that is what we're judged on at the beginning, which I don't agree with, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
How many ideas aren't spoken forth? Or how many times does somebody speak up and then they're not visually pleasing to the other person, so they're not listened to? And I think that's not right, but I think it is the reality of where we live.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you're ready to blast yourself off into space, um, that's kind of just what you have to deal with.
Right.
And I notice I have two kind of collections of clients, ones that love clothes just as much as I do, and then ones that have just been absolutely burned by the fashion industry.
Yeah.
Um, and I think having those emotional conversations, it makes me so sad because you don't have to feel that way, and I hate that somebody is making you feel that way, but we are a product of our environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being able to see that change in people where they're like, oh my gosh, I am beautiful, or I am handsome, I do fit in this, or I can go out and I want people to see me, I don't want to like hide behind a booth, or like it's really it's really heartwarming.
Right. It's like the ultimate form of self-care. It's,
Absolutely.
we all have to wear clothes. I mean, I guess we don't have to, but we've decided societally
I
that
think you get a
we're
ticket.
we're gonna wear clothes. And so as long as it's something you do every single day. It's kind of like
Mm.
the same idea with food, right? Like you
Yep.
have to eat every single day. So trying to eat the best food that you can, right? You hear that a lot of times with mattress companies. They're like, you
Mhm.
spend a fourth of your life sleeping. Why not have a good mattress? Same thing. You put on clothes every single day.
Yeah.
And I have two daughters, so we go through about three outfits per person per day, right? It's the
Sounds about
what you
right.
get up, you wear to school or work, and then you get home, you've got your after like play clothes stuff, and then
Mhm.
there's, whatever you're gonna wear to bed. So
Yeah.
it is very important, and it's consistent, and it's all the time. So and I think understanding that you don't have to have a closet stuffed full of a million different options
No.
if every single item in your closet you love and
Oh,
it was
absolutely.
designed for you and fits you. That's the part I'm really excited about. Like we haven't known each other long enough, but I'm like, I just want to get to the point where it's like, I don't need a bunch of stuff.
No.
I just want the clothes because there's so many things that, and when we went through my closet, it was like, this is too long, this is too short, the sleeves are too long, the button doesn't fit, the button's gone. Someday I'm gonna get these hemmed. Like,
Mm-mm.
and if I took all of those out and wasn't even a distraction, just everything fits well, how much easier is your life?
I, very easy. Let me tell you, I am making that transition myself. And I think in general, I mean, that's the reason why you have so many clothes, right? Because you run into different situations of maybe you fluctuate in weight, or you have been shopping at a certain store and all of a sudden your size is different even though your body isn't, and there are all these changes, and doing custom clothing in general takes out those variables so that you are just exactly you all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to express how you want to express yourself exactly the way you want to express it. I know that sounds super redundant, but it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think the thing I found interesting, one of the things of our adventure of trying to get me fitted for clothes, um, it wasn't like you took one measurement. You took how many is it? Like,
Between 47 and 57, unless you want to do like a custom jean.
and then if it's a custom jean, it's even more.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. So 57 measurements, and you had tools I had never seen before at all.
I
That
called them my torture tools.
that's
Yeah.
what they look like. But I mean, measuring like my shoulder height difference and like
Yep.
just anything you can possibly imagine. And one of my questions was the weight thing.
Hmm.
And the answer you gave was that a lot of the clothes have some give,
Yes.
but also once you have my perfect measurements, it's relatively easy to alter if necessary.
Yeah, so exactly. So it depends kind of what you're looking for in general. But if you stay relatively consistent, like even if you do like a 5 to 15 pound gauge, um, it shouldn't matter. And it gets to the point where you can send me a text message and say, I need this done. I want something else. And just in general, I know you haven't experienced this yet, but if there's been at least a month since we've seen each other, I take your measurements again and I am continuously updating it and updating it, because you're putting this in my hands. So
Mhm.
this is my job. So I want to make sure that it's the most accurate that I can be.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think I was really surprised at the cost. Like
Hmm.
when we first talked on the phone, I like flat out was like, this sounds amazing and wonderful and I would love clothes that fit and I hate shopping and the
Yeah.
fact that you would come to my home is great. But you want a kidney? Do you want one of my children? Like I can't afford this. And that was the thing I found so
Yeah.
interesting is that it seems unattainable,
Hmm.
but it's one of those things that it's not. It's like price wise, if you take away all the stuff that you're doing at the fast fashion,
Yep.
it's very, very attainable. And I want to touch on fast fashion a little bit and the sustainability, because that's something I'm also very passionate about.
Hmm.
I've done quite a bit of consignment shopping, and my girls like we do a lot of consignment shopping because why buy, something brand new
Of course.
but just like the fast fashion piece is a problem. And can you talk a little bit about your company and how they handle that?
Yeah, so obviously, we're all pretty familiar with the fast fashion industry. It's kind of really blown up, and I think it's been in the news a little bit more than it has been before. But I think still people don't realize how far that reaches, especially because a lot of these companies are not based in America.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a I don't see it, so it's not happening situation. Um, but the cool thing about Tom James is, a couple things, but we try really hard to be environmentally responsible. So like our shirting factories are solar powered. We use non-toxic dyes. And we just try to kind of give back to everybody. We're not a sweatshop. Everybody in the company is allowed to own stock. I mean, our facilities that we have, I mean, they have cafeterias and showers if you can't get them at home. Like it's a nice place to be. And I think that that's really important, especially moving into the future, because I think it's not really a great thing to have that practice as a human being of saying, I can't see it, so it's not a big idea, or a big deal to me. I think you should be able to feel good in your clothes, but also feel good about your clothes.
Absolutely.
And just, I think we're all contributing to something that we just don't have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think so much of it is just habit. It's kind of like
Hmm.
the plastic situation. Like we've gotten so used to and reliant on use once and destroy plastic, whether it's bottles or bags or whatever. But
Yeah.
um in Colorado, at least you can't get plastic bags at the grocery store anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And when it first happened, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm never gonna remember my bags. I'm never gonna like how am I gonna it?"
Exactly.
But you do. It's just a habit thing. It's like, "Oh, we don't actually have to use all this plastic.
No.
Oh, and we don't even have to pollute all this water with dyes and all these other things that are happening with this fast fashion." So,
Mm-hmm.
it is absolutely a solution larger than just self-care and taking care of yourself. It's taking care of,
Our planet.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, great. Well, thank you so much for being here today. You're so much fun to hang out with.
Oh, thanks, Monica. I'm so happy to be here. I'm jazzed.
It was
This is
awesome.
so cool.
No, we will do this again. So we're
Okay.
gonna do a photo shoot, which will be on social media. So you'll see some comparisons and stuff of what
Amazing.
Monica used to wear and what Monica wears now. And I would love to have you back again.
I would love to come back. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.